I pretended to be her lover and made her admit everything in public. I met her during my second year of college. She walked into class late with the kind of confidence that turned heads without even trying. Everything about her screamed ambition. She was sharp, well-spoken, and beautiful in a way that made people nervous around her. I was the opposite, focused, reserved, the kind of guy who always sat in the back and turned in homework early. Somehow we clicked. We started dating after a late-night study group turned into coffee, then lunch, then an entire weekend together. It felt effortless. Within a few months, we were practically living in each other's pockets. Everyone around us thought we were a perfect match. We had the balance that couples are supposed to have. She brought the spark. I brought the stability. After college, we stayed together. I started a master's program in engineering, and she began working toward a doctorate in anthropology. She came from money, the kind of Southern family that took pride in their name and their hosting skills. I didn't grow up with much, so I learned to appreciate things like linen napkins and formal dinners real quick. We got married after a 10-month engagement. Her parents paid for a wedding that looked like it belonged in a magazine. I was just proud to be standing there next to her. For a while, everything felt like it was moving in the right direction. She was chasing her dreams, and I was doing everything I could to support both of us. I worked part-time jobs, took on extra shifts, and covered as much of our living costs as possible. She said she was grateful. She said we were building something special. I believed her. Our apartment was small but full of life. We had our routines. We had our inside jokes. We even made our own weed-infused lube once as a weird side project. It was her idea, and we laughed about how ridiculous it was. But it worked, and we kept it around for special nights. Looking back now, even that memory feels poisoned. There were signs, I guess. I just didn't want to see them. The long nights. At the library. The sudden interest in her advisor's research. The way she started turning her phone screen away from me when she texted. But when you trust someone, really trust them, you don't keep score. You don't dig through their bags or scroll through their inbox. You believe what they tell you, even when something in your gut feels off. So when she told me she had a chance to go on a paid research trip to Jamaica over the summer, I didn't hesitate. She said it was for a religious studies project. The department needed someone reliable, and her professor had recommended her personally. I remember smiling when she told me. She looked excited in a way I hadn't seen in months. I was proud of her. I told her to go for it. 6 weeks in Jamaica, a paid academic trip, a chance to get published and build her resume. The only downside, I thought, was that I'd miss her. But I figured I'd keep busy with work and surprise her by matching the money she earned. I wanted her to come home to a full bank account and a plan for a weekend getaway. I wanted to show her that I was still in this, all the way. I never imagined what was actually happening behind the scenes, because while I was working double shifts and saving every penny, she was using that trip for something else entirely, and the person she was using me to lie to was someone I had welcomed into our home more than once. I dropped her off at the airport just after sunrise. She wore a loose sundress and had her hair tied back. Casual but perfect. As I loaded her suitcase into the trunk, she kissed me on the cheek and told me she'd miss me every day. I believed her. I stood by the gate longer than I needed to, watching her walk away with that confident, excited stride. I thought she was going off to chase something important, something that mattered to both of us. She sent a couple of photos during the first week. One was of her standing near a carved totem. Another was a group shot of the students on a dusty trail. She told me they were moving between sites, interviewing locals, studying symbols, documenting rituals. The Wi-Fi wasn't great, she said, and her schedule was packed. That was why she might be slow to respond. I told her not to worry and that I was proud of her. I meant it. I took on extra shifts. I packed meals for work. I even started planning a surprise for when she got back. Something quiet. A small cabin rental just outside the city where we could unwind and reconnect. I imagined her lighting candles and telling me stories about the trip while I made dinner. That picture kept me going. But by the third week, something started to feel wrong. She had gone quiet. No texts, no calls, not even a missed one. I didn't panic at first. I told myself she was just caught up in the work, that the service was unreliable. But I also noticed that when she did respond, her tone had changed. Shorter sentences. Less warmth. No more, I miss you. Just cold facts and excuses. I convinced myself she was tired. Maybe overwhelmed. I didn't want to become that insecure husband who questioned everything. So I stayed patient. I gave her space. But something inside me had already started to shift. Then came the message that cracked everything open. It was a simple notification on Facebook. A name I barely recognized. One of the students from the trip. I clicked on the message, expecting something harmless. What I got instead was a cold punch to the chest. Hey, I don't know how to say this, but I think you deserve to know what's going on. I've seen things. I've heard them talking. I think your wife is having an affair with the professor. I sat there staring at the screen for what felt like an hour. My hands hovered over the keyboard, trying to figure out what to type. Eventually, I just asked, "Are you sure?" His reply came almost immediately. "Yes, I'm sorry. I've seen them sneaking off. They don't hide it when they think no one's watching." I thought you knew. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't talk to anyone. I just sat in the dark with the glow of the computer screen on my face, heart racing, mind spinning. I didn't want to believe him, but something in the pit of my stomach told me this wasn't some bitter rumor. I had seen the change in her. I had ignored the distance. I had swallowed the silence, and now I couldn't unsee it. Still, I needed proof. I needed to know for sure before I even thought about what came next, so I waited for her to fall asleep. A few days later, when she got back from Jamaica, I acted like nothing had happened. I carried her bags inside. I asked how the trip went. She gave me the same surface-level answers, never making eye contact for too long. That night, after she passed out early from jet lag, I opened her laptop. No password. Her email was still logged in. I went through the inbox first. Nothing. Obvious. Then I saw a folder marked Study Notes. I clicked. Inside were dozens of emails between her and the professor. At first they sounded professional, but then came the little jokes, the flirty lines, the suggestive comments, and then, suddenly, there was no ambiguity at all. One email read, "That beach house last night was perfect. I still smell your cologne." On me. Another. "We were so loud in the hotel room I thought someone would knock on the door. They wrote about me. They laughed about me. They mentioned the weed lube we had made together, mocking how clueless I was that they were using it behind my back. It was more than cheating. It was betrayal with an audience, and I sat there reading every word, sinking deeper into a numb kind of silence. I didn't wake her. I didn't say a word. I just closed the laptop, stood in the kitchen, and stared at nothing for a long time. I had always believed that if something like this ever happened to me, I would lose my mind. I would scream. I would pack my bags. But I didn't do any of that. I stood there in that quiet apartment and felt something colder than rage. I didn't want her to feel guilty. I wanted her to feel humiliated. The pain faded faster than I expected. It was replaced by something sharper. I didn't want justice. I didn't want to sit her down and ask why. I already knew why. The pieces had been there for a long time. I had just chosen not to look. What I wanted now was control. I wanted to be the one who decided how this story ended. The first clue for my plan came from something small. Something most people wouldn't have noticed. Our bottle of weed-infused lube had been getting lighter. We hadn't touched each other in weeks. The bottle had just been sitting there on the shelf in our bathroom cabinet. But one day when I went to grab some aspirin, I noticed it had clearly been used. I stared at it for a full minute, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. I wasn't. They had been using it. The same oil I had crafted for the two of us. The same bottle we used when we were still happy. That stung more than I expected. It felt personal. Like every part of our relationship had been stolen, repackaged, and handed off to someone else. That was when I had the idea. I decided to make a fresh batch. Same ingredients, same routine, same scent. I wanted it to feel familiar when she reached for it again. But this time I added something special. Poison ivy. I wore gloves and crushed the leaves carefully, mixing them into the coconut oil while it heated on the stove. I let it infuse just enough to keep the irritants active but not obvious. The final product looked and smelled exactly like the original. I even poured it back into the same spray bottle she was used to using. That was step 1. Step 2 required a bit more precision. I waited for the right night, one where she said she was heading to the library to work on her dissertation. I kissed her on the forehead and wished her good luck. Then, after she left, I picked up her phone. I deleted my contact info. Then I renamed the professor's contact name to mine and changed his number to mine too. From now on, anything she texted to him would come to me. And then I waited. The first day, nothing happened. The second day, still nothing. By the third day, I could see her growing uncomfortable. She shifted more in her seat, scratched her arms during breakfast, rubbed at her thighs under the table, but she said nothing. She wasn't ready to panic yet. Then, early one morning while she was in the shower, her phone lit up with a message. My heart thumped as I picked it up and read the words, "I'm super itchy. Are you okay?" This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. I took a breath and typed back a simple, devastating reply. I thought it cleared up. Guess not. Sorry, I've got herpes. I guess you do now too. I heard her gasp from the shower. The water kept running, but everything else went still. She didn't scream. Not yet. But when she came out, she looked pale and shaken. Her hands trembled as she checked her phone, reading the reply over and over again. Her entire face was a mixture of panic and rage. She didn't know who to blame yet, but I could see it brewing. Her perfect world had just cracked in half. I stayed quiet. I asked her if she was feeling okay. She mumbled something and locked herself in the bathroom again. Then came the messages, dozens of them, desperate and pleading. She begged the professor to explain, demanded to know if it was true, accused him of hiding it, accused him of ruining her. I sat on the couch, watching each message come through in real time. She was unraveling, one word at a time. So I sent one final reply. Thanks for everything. Please don't tell anyone. I don't want to ruin my chances with someone new. She stared at her phone like it had betrayed her. And then she broke. She grabbed her keys without saying a word and stormed out of the apartment. I knew exactly where she was going, and I wasn't far behind. I gave her a head start before following. She didn't drive. She never liked the hassle of parking near campus, especially during the day, so she usually walked. That worked in my favor. I waited about 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys and left through the back. I didn't want her to see me. I parked a few blocks away and cut through the side of the campus lawn, staying in the shadows of the old science building. I already knew where she was headed. His office was on the second floor of the anthropology wing, tucked between a dusty lab room and a quiet lounge used by graduate students. From where I stood, I could hear raised voices before I even reached the building. I crept up the side hallway and paused at the corner, just out of view. Her voice echoed against the linoleum. She wasn't just angry. She was hysterical. Tears, shrieks, words tumbling over each other without pause. You told me it was safe. You told me I had nothing to worry about. You said this wouldn't come back on us. She was shaking. I could tell from her voice. I didn't need to see her face to know. He sounded confused. He kept asking her to calm down. He told her to lower her voice, but she wasn't having it. She kept going. You gave me herpes. You ruined my life. Do you even care what happens now? What if I gave it to someone else? Every word slammed through that hallway like a thunderclap. Doors opened, heads turned. Students poked their heads out of classrooms. 2 faculty members stepped into the hallway, eyebrows raised. One of them pulled out a phone. I didn't need a camera. I had the memory seared into my brain already. She was red-faced, sobbing. Mascara streaked across her cheeks. Her hair was damp. Her shirt was crooked, like she had thrown it on in a panic. She looked nothing like the woman who had kissed me goodbye on her way to the airport. This version of her was broken. He stood stiff behind his desk, eyes darting from her to the onlookers, his mouth half open in disbelief. He kept denying it, but his words were useless against her volume. The more he tried to quiet her, the louder she got. And the louder she got, the more heads appeared in the hallway. One of the grad assistants said quietly, "Is she saying he gave her herpes?" Another whispered, "Did she say he slept with her? That's against the department rules." That was the moment I turned and walked away. I didn't need to stay for the fallout. I had already seen the first domino fall. The rest would come crashing down soon enough. When I got home, I opened her laptop again. This time, I didn't look at the messages. I didn't read any of the emails. I just opened her folder where she kept her dissertation notes, highlighted everything, and hit delete. I then started a full reformat of the hard drive. Every paper, every draft, every research outline, gone. That was the final touch. No screaming, no confrontation, no slamming doors or raised fists. Just quiet, deliberate destruction. Later that evening, she came home. Her eyes were swollen. She didn't speak to me. She went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. I didn't ask what happened. I didn't need to. The silence between us was all the confirmation I would ever need. She stayed locked in the bedroom the entire next day. I made breakfast and left it untouched on the counter. I watched her move like a ghost around the apartment, occasionally picking up her phone and setting it back down. She looked like someone who had been through war. And in a way, she had. She just didn't know I was the one who had drawn the battle lines. The fallout didn't happen all at once. It spread like a slow leak, seeping into every corner of her life until it finally collapsed completely. By the end of the week, the university had launched an internal review. The professor denied everything, of course, but it didn't matter. Enough students had witnessed the screaming match. Enough whispers floated around the department to build a full picture. Faculty members who once invited him to dinner now avoided eye contact in the halls. It wasn't just the herpes claim that ruined him. It was the affair itself. Sleeping with a graduate student under his supervision was more than enough to violate the university's code of conduct. He was let go before the end of the semester. His name vanished from the faculty page overnight. No press release, no formal announcement, just a quiet removal. Rumor around campus was that he took a job teaching high school history in a nearby town. A massive step down for someone who once bragged about tenure and research grants. As for her, the spiral continued. She tried to recover, tried to salvage what was left of her academic career, but the damage was done. Her name had been dragged through every hallway. Her credibility was gone. Some of her friends stuck around, but most pulled away. No one wanted to be associated with a public scandal. She attempted to restart her dissertation twice. I knew this because she asked me for help locating old files. I pretended to look and said they must have been lost when the computer crashed. She didn't question it. Her spirit was too broken to argue. By the end of the year, she dropped out of the program entirely. That was when we filed for divorce. In our state, we had to be separated for a full year before it could be finalized. We agreed to stay civil. She didn't fight me on much. I kept most of our savings, which wasn't a fortune, but enough to start over comfortably. She moved back in with her parents. I stayed in the city and focused on work. It was strange at first, waking up in an apartment without her, cooking for one, coming home to silence. But that silence felt cleaner than what I had lived through. It felt like healing. I started running again. I picked up an old guitar. I didn't rush into dating. I wasn't looking to replace her. I just wanted peace. 3 years later, I met someone new. She was everything my ex wasn't. Thoughtful, grounded, honest in a way that made you feel safe. We took things slow, built something steady. When I told her the story, the full story, she didn't laugh or recoil. She listened, she understood, and then she said something I'll never forget. You didn't ruin her. You just handed her the truth and let her set fire to herself. We've been married 2 years now. As for my ex, I hear things now and then. She married a guy who sells herbal supplements. They live in the suburbs. She has kids. She posts motivational quotes on social media and tags them with words like grind and growth. I don't know if she ever finished school. I doubt she talks about what happened. The truth is, I don't think about her often. But when I do, it's not with anger. It's with a quiet kind of satisfaction. She spent months lying to me, hiding in plain sight, smiling to my face while tearing down the life we built together. I never raised my voice. I never laid a hand on her. All I did was hold up a mirror and let her watch herself fall apart.
The case has been heard. The stories have been told. Now it's your turn to judge. Leave your verdict in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. The Court of Stories is always in session.